Hey, didn't see you there. Hi, do you wanna help me work on my bike today? Oh, yeah, we're gonna be doing all kinds of stuff on the bike today. So today's video is a little more interactive. It's a simulator where you play as me, as a 10-year-old kid, getting yelled at by my dad for holding the flashlight wrong when he was working on shit. So as you know, I recently got a 2020 Harley-Davidson Lowrider, and I've done a few modifications to it. And one thing that I've been noticing that's been really bothering me is it has this really kind of ugly tail light and turn signal combo in the rear. They're halogen bulbs, they're pretty dull, and I'm just not a huge fan of the way it looks and performs. So we're gonna switch it out to LED today. Now normally switching out a taillight would be as simple as undoing it, unplugging it, plugging the new one in, putting it back on. But with the Harley-Davidson Lowrider, they switched up the harness to make it a little more difficult. I'll give you a little demonstration of what we're dealing with here. I found my old notebook from when I lived in my apartment, and this here is my taxes from 2016, and I made $7,000 in 2017. Nice. Alright, so basically what we're looking at here is this is the stock setup here. We got a right turn signal, a left turn signal, and then the main brake light. Okay, now each of these has their own wire coming out of it, going to the, we're just going to call it the CPU, the central programming unit, okay? We'll just run with that. It's probably not called that, we're just going to call it that. And then we're going to get the new tail light, which is going to have the turn signals integrated into it to save space and make it look cleaner. And so we're going to have all three of these wires running up and plugging in at the same place. So we're going to have to get a little bit of a wiring harness thing going on here so we don't have to butcher all the wires and splice them all in and make it look like shit. So let's start with the meat here. We got our Moons MC 2-in-1 LED taillight. Beautiful. LED is much brighter. It requires less load on the battery to work, so it'll actually use a less electrical drain than a halogen bulb, believe it or not. LEDs last a really long time. You'll probably never have to replace the bulbs, and you'll probably never have to replace an LED light housing because they last a really, really long time. We're talking like 100,000 hours easily. It's also much more low profile too. The stock one on there is like this wide, and it just looks really weird. This thing here is very low profile, but as you can see, the turn signals are in the tail light itself. So this will do your brakes, this will do your tail lights, and it has a strobe feature, so when you hit the brakes, it actually flashes like 5 times to let people behind you know that you're slowing down or stopping, because you'd be amazed at how many people don't pay attention to motorcycles. Also, before I move on to the harness, look at this. They send you a fucking cool little sticker. Look at that, Moons Motorcycle Culture. How fucking cool is that shit? Cute little FXR lowrider on there. I think it looks dope. So for the harness, we went with a Gorilla Cables harness. Pull this fucker out. Look at that, beautiful. Absolutely stunning. And this one here, these motherfuckers upped their game from this. I got a goddamn koozie and a sticker. Look at that. The coolest part about doing shit to your bike is getting a bunch of free stuff, am I right? Here we go, boom. So, this end here is gonna plug into the main harness, and then this here is gonna run underneath the rear fender, and then go over here, and then boop, boop, boop. But yeah, this is all very nice construction. Look at that, made in Riverside, California. That's what we like to see over here in the States. And yeah, this is basically an adhesive strip. So we're gonna take the struts off the side of the fender, lift it up, clean it out real nice, stick this underneath the fender, run our wires, and then let it cure for a couple of days and get all nice and sticky, and it should be good to go. Alright, so we're in the garage, and I think the first thing I'm going to do is take the seat off and disconnect the battery. Since we're going to be doing electrical work today, I really don't want to, I'm not so much worried about shocking myself, but sometimes if you leave the battery connected and then you start unplugging wires, you can throw engine codes. You know, so like it'll be like check engine light or something like that, or the bike may not start. Just weird things can happen if you leave the battery connected doing electrical work. So we're going to take that off real quick, undo the negative terminal of the battery, and then we'll be right back. Alley-oop. And there's the guts of the bag. And the battery's down in there. And we don't have to disconnect the battery or like take it off. We just have to undo that negative terminal there. And then the battery will have no function to the bike. So we're going to put a Phillips down in there and loosen that up, and we'll be right back. Alright guys, so I actually took the side cover off here, undid the battery. Up next I'm going to disconnect the turn signals and the main brake light from the harness here, so that way whenever I undo these strut bolts, I can just pull the fender off and not have to worry about anything snagging or being hung up. So I'm going to do that right now. So a lot of this electrical stuff is really just following the wires back to their main source. So you can follow this one here, plugs in right here, this little clip here. Great to have, pulls out and then push down. Ooh, look at that. Snaps right out of there. Unplug this one. This looks like the right signal, and then this looks like, get up out of this slot here. This looks like the left signal. So this is all disconnected. Right now I'm going to actually snip this zip tie off, so whenever I pull the fender it doesn't get hung up and make me mad. Snips. This might be a job for pliers. This is some sort of like zip tie plug. There we go. I don't know if it'll focus or not. Just a plug with a zip tie on it to hold the wires down. So yeah, this is all freed up. We're going to undo the struts and pull the fender. Alright, so we got the fender off, and we're basically going to start dissecting it and getting it ready for the new tail light. So basically we're going to take the old one off. We're going to take these struts off and get these old turn signals off. Then we're going to have to clean the underneath of it pretty well so that the new wiring harness will actually stick to the metal. And yeah, we'll just go from there and see how she rolls. Alright, so we got the taillight off, we got the turn signals off, we got the struts off. Scratched up the fender a little bit, which I'm a little bummed about, but maybe it'll wax off, so we'll see. But about to put the new one on, and well, actually, never mind. I have to clean underneath it because obviously it's a little dirty. So we're about to put the new taillight on, but I just want to show you guys real quick before I do this. I mean, just look at the difference in size. Here's the new one, obviously, and there's the old one. It seems just like a brick. I don't know why they decided to make it so big, but yeah, it's definitely going to be a lot more low pro. So I'm excited. I also want to show you guys a little tip. So anytime you're working with electrical stuff, it's always a really good idea to use a dielectric grease on all your fittings. It helps with a couple things. It helps create a better contact. It prevents corrosion, and then like down the road, if you wanted to pull these off and work on them, they'll come off like so much easier. If you've ever worked with like electrical components that are very old and they've never been like greased, they're a bitch to get apart sometimes because they'll corrode together, and obviously you can't really yank on these wires too much, so it turns into quite a bit of an issue. So a little dab of dielectric grease on there, be good to go. Alright, so here's what we're working with right now. We got the old one off. As you can see, a big old strip of adhesive where it was. Got the new tail light on. And I'm going to peel this adhesive strip. Stick that fucker on there. And then they told you to use a paint roller or something to like smooth out the air bubbles on this. So I'm going to stick that on there, then kind of smooth it out. Alright, I got the harness on there. Just use this right here. Just popped it on there. Another thing I'm going to do is actually take all these bolts that were holding the struts in, and I don't know if you can see them. They're super fucking dirty. They're covered in Loctite from the factory. So I'm going to hit them with a little bit of Castle Thrust and a toothbrush and get them nice and clean. Then put a fresh knob of Loctite on them so they're good to go.
Rock grooves and make moves with all the moms. The back of the club, sipping my weed where you find. The back of the club, macking holes. I got enough to feed the needs. No need to be greedy. I got mad friends with Vince.
Both the struts are on. Let's get this bitch back on the bike. Alright guys, got the fender all reinstalled. Went on pretty easily. Now for the easy part.
Testing the trap and it chills my spine. 11 more minutes to go. And the trap and the rope, oh, they work just fine. 10 more minutes to go. Well, I'm waiting for the pardon that'll set me free. But 9 more minutes to go.
Yeah, it all came together pretty well. Pretty straightforward. Definitely, if you're looking for something like this, check out Moon's MC for this tail light, and Gorilla cables for the harness. And it only took me maybe an hour or so when it was all said and done. It took me a lot longer because of the camera and everything, but it wasn't that bad of a job at all. So yeah, definitely recommend it. Definitely cleans up the back end of the bike quite a bit. So thank you for watching. Stay frosty.